Hello and welcome to another story recap on this channel. Just a quick reminder if you're new on this channel, this recap is part of a bigger review on this channel, and if you want to hear me talking or hear my opinion on the gameplay, the graphics, the sound design and so on, you can find the full review on the channel as well. And without further ado, let's get right to the recap. The game begins with our protagonist Yu arriving on the moon as part of a crew of mechanics because Earth lost contact with the moon base. The four men immediately grow suspicious as there is no human worker inside. They begin to make their way through the corridors anyway with the help of a freshly printed android called a Walker. They continue looking for the issue until an earthquake causes the structure they are inside at the moment to collapse and Yu to drop down and get separated from his group. We then bear witness to a young girl in a blue coat repairing the still unconscious Yu's suit with the help of a first aid device. When he comes to his senses, Yu quickly notices who saved him, thanks his savior and asks for her name, while being worried about a child being alone on the space station. His worries are replaced by confusion as the girl introduces herself as DI-03367, state-of-the-art so-called Pragmata. Yu, who isn't too fond of the idea to call her by her serial number, quickly decides to call his new companion Diana, which he very obviously likes. To regain the ability to contact Earth, they need to reactivate the power supply first, so the two begin to make their way there. But because just walking over and pressing a button would be way too easy, after dealing with a few robots, we end up in front of a closed door. So we are back to exploring the facility, and after finding several locks scattered around the surroundings for Diana to hack, we reach the console for energy control. Here, Eidos, the AI that went mad and took over control of the moonbase, decides it's time to introduce himself with the help of a huge mech trying to stop us from reaching our goal. After overcoming our very first actual boss fight of the game, we get to reactivate the power supply and our next goal is the communications tower. But first we get introduced to the shelter. We will fill our supplies and make our way towards our target that is in the middle of a replica version of New York. When we try to approach the tower, Eidos isn't a fan of that idea and closes a giant gate that is locked with 6 individual locks. So we make our way through the surrounding facilities until we activated 6 individual hacking points. Along the way, we also gain the ability to destroy the blue crystals that are a product of errors that occur while structures are printed. Anyway, with the last lock out of the way, the massive gate opens, revealing the comms tower. Yu and Diana make their way through the gate, hoping to finally get closer to contacting Earth. But Eidos has other plans, as he introduces us to another of his mechanical beasts, the so-called Creator, a massive crawling, robotic abomination that would try to crush us with his hands or burn us with a constant set of laser beams coming from its hammer-shaped head. After taking many blows to its weak points, the Creator eventually hits the ground and opens the way to our goal. Inside, we are forced to accept the fact that our plan was too easy, to not be intercepted by our AI antagonist as the communications are blocked entirely. In their disappointment, the two are contacted by a girl's voice with a hologram of a cat that claims to be trapped in the so-called Terror Dome and asks for our help. Yu is a bit hesitant to drop their plans to help, but is quickly convinced by how important helping the girl, who calls herself 8, seems to Diana. At the Terror Dome, we witness for the first time that on the moon they also experimented with printing and manipulating living organisms. One of those experiments, a giant tree in the center of the dome, is out of control, so we have to find and reactivate regulators to regain control and reach 8. We do so, the tree partly dissolves and we get access to the room where 8 is supposed to be trapped. Inside we find out that 8, like Diana, is a Pragmata. While still being trapped inside some tree branches behind a glass wall, the robot girl informs us that Pragmata should have the ability to override and regain control over Eidos. Diana searches her memory but sadly can't find that function herself, and on top of that we can't seem to find a way to get 8 out of her misery and have her aid us. The last thing that might help is finding another regulator much deeper in the facility, so now that they already came this far, Diana and Yu go there next without hesitation. During their journey through the depths of the Terror Dome, we get to witness one of the nicest scenes of the game, as the two come across an artificial beach where Yu promises the amazed Diana that he will take her to see the real ocean down on Earth. Now at the end of our Terror Dome travels, we get to jump down into a pit that turns out to be the lair of another boss enemy, the Garden Keeper. The Garden Keeper somewhat resembles a giant mechanical scorpion, but instead of stinging, he will try to sweep us with its tail, hit you while plunging forward, or shoot laser beams out of its tail while hanging from the ceiling. But despite our efforts and overcoming the Garden Keeper challenge, we still can't get 8 out of her prison, and on top of that, her room is about to go into a lockdown. So to still aid us on our mission to defeat Eidos, she transfers the data to override the AI to Diana. So now, with the key to stop IDOS once and for all, our next step is the mainframe that is located in the depths of the lunar mines. To access the mines, we actually have to leave the research facilities and cross the moon's surface without actually touching the ground itself. Because if we do, we are going to be attacked by a gigantic sandworm-like mining robot called a lunar digger. But in the end, avoiding him didn't really make a difference, as right before entering the mainframe, we are forced to fight the lunar digger anyway. And with the lunar digger out of the way, we finally can get inside and face IDOS directly. Inside, we find some horrific scenes, with the ground and some deceased scientists being overgrown with dead filament. When IDOS realizes what we are about to do, he activates a final defense mechanism that increases the gravity so that we are pulled to the ground. But Diana manages to pull through and reboot and override IDOS. When the AI is back online, it tells us that the control went back to 8 and that the transportation of dead filament is continued. In our confusion, 8 appears, levitating with a changed appearance and controlling orbs and threads of dead filament. She reveals her plan to bring the deadly substance to Earth before shooting lances of the filament at us. One hits you, and while trying to deflect the next wave, Diana is severely damaged, and the two fall down with the collapsing structures beneath them. When the injured you comes back to his senses, he heads back to the shelter with Diana in his arms. The shelter's AI recognizes Diana's critical condition and reveals a secret RAM system leading to the experimental pragmatic section of the facility. Here we need to find a generator unit that powers a machine that is capable of cleansing and repairing Diana's damages. During the process, we need to hold off an infected combat mech that Diana defeats with her new cleansing abilities as soon as the repairing process is finished. Afterwards, they agree that they have to stop 8 no matter what, and we get to see that Yu suffers from the dead filament infection after the attack. To put the plan into action, we have to find the evil Pragmata in the central port. On our way there, we are confronted by huge amounts of infected machines that can only be dealt with by utilizing Diana's new cleansing ability. Further, we learn through emails and recorded holo messages that 8's hatred comes from her creator, Dr. Higgins' memories, who lost his daughter because the Delphi Corporation that owns the Moon Research Facility tested an unstable version of lunar filament on his sick daughter that immediately died. When we arrive at the overgrown hangar, 8's preparations are almost complete, and as soon as she notices us, she attacks and lets the dark filament take over to transform her into a humanoid silver-purple mechanical beast with tentacles coming out of its back. During the fight, she shields herself with a layer of filament we have to cleanse, tries to hack Diana, which we have to counter, and tries to hit us with her tentacles. With her defeated, her plans to destroy Earth comes to an end. Before dissolving herself, 8 begs Diana to tell Dr. Higgins' story. While Diana seems a bit troubled, Yu shares no sympathy with her and tells Diana that they have to leave. They take the cargo lift to the top where the transportation shuttles are supposed to be. On their way up, the tower is attacked by the entire mass of dead filament that is now out of control, with 8 not being there anymore to guide it. Yu grabs an extension for his suit that makes him able to fly and adds a huge railgun to his arsenal. So now, while flying upwards, we have to constantly keep firing at the dead filament's weak points to keep it from destroying our only way home. In the end, we manage to kill off the monstrous mass by hitting its core, which causes it to dissolve. At the top, Yu realizes he doesn't have much time left due to the infection, puts Diana inside a cargo shuttle, uses his suit's energy source to power the shuttle, sends Diana off to Earth and stays behind floating through space motionless. We get one final scene that shows Diana out of her pod, standing at a beach looking up to the moon, and the game story ends right here. Now, after completing the unknown signal mode, where you have to 100% complete each sector and fight stronger versions of every boss, there might be signs for a happy ending for Diana and Yu. For one, you can find the so-called black box mod that indicates the potential cure for the dead filament infection in its description text, and on the other hand, at the end of the second playthrough, you can hear Kevin say something along the line of, "Oh, you're back, and alone this time." So Yu might actually get fixed up and finds its way back to Earth too.